All Might strolled through the night halls of the UA high school, staring out into the window. Young Uraraka, young Bakugo, he had hoped they were all right. He hadn't seen them since they were given that mission. All Might sighed. He prayed nothing had happened to them. He had personally signed them up for that mission. He had already lost one. No, he couldn't think like that. Young Midoriya was fine. He had to be any day now. He would see that streaking green light from Midoriya yet again. The more All Might thought about it, the more he thought he could see that familiar green light from out the window. All Might blinked, rubbing his eyes as he stared out the glass walls of the school. He wasn't seeing things. That was Midoriya's familiar green light. All Might watched as the green energy streak landed in front of the UA gates. All Might rushed down the stairs and through the halls as fast as he could until he was racing outside the building. All Might quickly, yet out of breath, opened the gate to the school to see a dirty Midoriya, holding a bleeding Monoma. Young Midoriya, All Might called out, tears coming to his eyes. Izuku blinked. I'm sorry sir, I don't know who you are. But there's no time. Monoma-kun, he's losing a lot of blood. Izuku said, carrying the blonde boy on his back. All Might took a second to respond, silently taking in the fact that young Midoriya didn't recognize him, however he quickly went into action. Follow me to Recovery Girl's office. Quickly. All Might said, beckoning for Izuku to follow him. I'm gonna meet Recovery Girl. All Might heard Izuku mutter excitedly under his breath. Well, at least not all his memory was gone. All Might and Izuku rushed to the recovery center, where Recovery Girl was awakened. Lay him on the bed. Quickly boy, Recovery Girl said, still in her slippers as she rushed to the bedside. Izuku gently laid Monoma on the bed. Will he be alright? Izuku asked worriedly. Recovery Girl inspected Monoma before giving Izuku an answer. He will be, but just barely. Any more time wasted and I wouldn't be able to say the same. You also need rest, Recovery Girl started, however Izuku shook his head. I'm sorry ma'am, I have to leave. There were heroes fighting the villains that apparently took us. I need to go back and help. Young Midoriya, follow me quickly. All Might said, turning to head out the room. All Might, you'll get the boy killed. Recovery Girl shouted. Izuku's eyes got wide. All Might, you're All Might. Izuku shouted. All Might turned back and nodded. Izuku instantly made up his mind to follow All Might out of Recovery Girl's office. What is the last thing you remember? All Might asked as he walked swiftly towards his office. Do you remember any of our training together? We trained together, Izuku said excitedly. All Might sighed. He was that far back, huh? All Might turned into a door, entering his office as he turned the lights on. Listen here young Midoriya, All Might said quickly. As much as I wish to relish this reunion, we don't have much time. That woman and man who kidnapped you. They are no joke. Young Bakugo and young Uraraka will die if you don't save them using One for All. You know about One for All. And who is this Uraraka? She sounds so familiar. I can't help but feel like she's important to me. Izuku said with a blush on his face. All Might couldn't help but smile as he went to his desk, beginning to dig through his drawers. Some things just couldn't be forgotten it seemed. She's very important to you. In fact, it seems as though your love for her hasn't been forgotten. Ah, here it is. All Might muttered, pulling out a turquoise outfit from one of the drawers. In fact, that same girl is the one that saved this for you. She left it here with me to keep it safe after you were taken from the mountains. All Might walked over, holding out the costume to Izuku. Izuku slowly took the outfit as he stared down at it. This looks similar to the costume design I drew as a kid. Izuku said. All Might nodded. That's because it's your costume. It's missing its mask because young Uraraka has it. But this belongs to you. All Might said. Izuku quickly put the costume on. It fit perfectly. All Might, am I really a hero? Izuku asked. All Might nodded. A hero with much more responsibility than any other one in this world. I gave you that responsibility. You and Bakugo, Uraraka now too. You are the hero Deku. Deku, why would that be my hero name? Izuku asked curiously. All Might chuckled, because young Uraraka thought it was cute. Izuku couldn't help but smile. Something about that felt strangely right. However, he couldn't waste any more time. All Might, I have to go, Izuku said, suddenly remembering why he was in a hurry. All Might nodded. Just come back to me this time, All Might said, putting his hand on Izuku's shoulder. However, the moment All Might made contact with Izuku, Izuku felt a spark jolt through his body as One for All reacted to its touch. Izuku felt everything go dark. It's this place, Izuku said to himself as he looked around the void. Looks like Toshinori was the spark of embers we needed to fully reconnect to you, a voice said from behind. Izuku turned to see a woman with dark hair staring at him, only a few feet away. Behind her stood others, each smiling at him. Who are you? Izuku asked. The woman smiled sweetly. We are those who have had One for All previously. In fact, you are here as well. When Yosuke's amnesia touched you, it threw our memories out of alignment as well. One for All was shattered per se. However, your will manifested itself. It was so strong, it kept itself together inside of One for All, while also defending your physical body while you were unconscious. While your physical memories were destroyed, your One for All memories are still intact, and the you inside One for All brought us back together. The woman stepped aside, along with the others to reveal the black smoke version of Izuku. A person's memories may be able to be locked away, erased, or damaged in a person's mind. The muscular woman said, however, a quirk will never forget. As long as the person's will is strong enough. The smoke version of Izuku walked forward through its peers until it was standing nose to nose with Izuku. Become one again, Midoriya, the woman said. Izuku stared into the smoky eyes of himself. The smoke version of Izuku raised its hand, waiting for Izuku to take its hand. Izuku smiled. This felt right. Izuku took the smoke hand in his own. Izuku watched as the smoke started to deform, now circling his own body before it fused with Izuku himself. Izuku closed his eyes, allowing the fusion to take place. With a bright green light, Izuku formed yet again. Well, Midoriya, how do you feel? The woman asked. Izuku smiled as he opened his bright green eyes. I feel great, Nana, Izuku said with a confident smile. You all taught me a lot while I was here. I have to learn how to use each and every one of your quirks properly. We don't know what Shigaraki will be like now that he has the 100% power of All for One. But I will put a stop to it, I swear. First user of One for All, Yoichi. Izuku stared into the back of the group towards the frail-looking man in the back. His hair long and white, his body a bit hunched over. The man smiled. We will be here when you need us. Izuku, Yoichi said with a smile. Go and save her. Izuku nodded as he began to fade. Goodbye everyone. Thank you for taking care of me while I wasn't here, Izuku said as he vanished from the One for All realm. Midoriya, young Midoriya, a familiar voice called out. Izuku's eyes snapped open as he forced himself up quickly. Izuku had fallen to the ground. Izuku looked up at the frail-looking blonde next to him. Young Midoriya, are you okay? All Might asked. Izuku smiled as he put a hand on All Might's shoulder. Never better, All Might, Izuku said with a confident smile. All Might's bright blue eyes grew wide. All Might started, however Izuku was quickly on his feet. Yay, I'm back, I'll explain later. They have a copy of One for All. I have to save Ochako, and make sure no one uses that copy. It's important. I learned a lot while I was a ghost in One for All. Not everyone can use One for All. I have to go, Izuku said quickly. You had better make it back this time. The real you, All Might said. Izuku smiled. Absolutely. Also, sorry about this, All Might. Izuku said as strong currents of green energy started coursing around Izuku. With tremendous power and speed, Izuku jumped through the window, rocketing towards the abandoned docks. The Nomu squeezed onto Iida tighter. Iida felt the armor beginning to crush and bend to the Nomu's strength. Iida, Shinso called out, however the Nomu he was fighting grabbed him by the neck, lifting them both into the sky. Iida looked out towards the hole in the other room's wall, where a bright pink light had just gone off. Was that Uraraka? Hopefully she was okay. It looked like this was the end for Shinso and himself. She was their last hope. However, just as the Nomu was about to crush Iida completely, a flash of green light filled the room. With a flash of green light, both Nomus were sent flying down the hallway. Iida and Shinso came crashing to the ground as the Nomus collided into the far end of the hallway wall. Sorry I'm late, looks like you guys were having a hard time. A voice came from behind them. Iida turned to see Izuku, a swarm of green energy coursing around him. Midoriya, But how? Didn't you? No time to explain, Midoriya said, crouching down to eat his level. Fill me in what's happened with the one-for-all copy. Uraraka had it, but judging from that pink light just moments earlier, I would assume she used it to fight against that monster Asagiri. Iida said, trying to stand. However, his legs gave out. Izuku grit his teeth. Was he too late? Where's Yosuke and Ka-chan? Izuku asked. However, before Iida could answer, an explosion came through the flooring. There, Izuku thought. The green energy coursed rapidly through Izuku's body yet again. Izuku launched forward, diving below the floor onto the second level. There he saw Bakugo, firing multiple AP shots at a bloodthirsty Yosuke charging at him. Bakugo quickly looked back before focusing back on the charging Yosuke. I can't tell you again, you damn Deku. Bakugo screamed out. I'll handle this, go save your stupid girlfriend. You're not stealing my kill again. Izuku smiled as Bakugo fired off more AP shots. Thank you, Ka-chan, Izuku said as he rocketed out the building towards the rainy shipping yard. You really are a good friend. You should have had him help you, spiky brat. Yosuke, the mist still spiraling around him, only growing even larger. Bakugo smiled angrily as sweat fell down the side of his face. I don't need that Deku's help. I will beat you here and now, while he goes to who actually need help. Bakugo growled. The two screamed before charging at each other. Asagiri and Ochako stood, staring each other down as pink pale energy coursed around Ochako. Ochako could tell from Asagiri's eyes. She wasn't playing any more games. Ochako's legs still shook a bit. Even she could tell that her one-for-all was nowhere near the level of Izuku's generational buildup of stockpiled energy. Even with this copied and amplified one-for-all, it was still a new quirk. Ochako was still severely outclassed. Asagiri rushed with extreme speed. Instantly, she was in front of Ochako yet again. Ochako wasn't prepared for the punch that sank into her stomach, sending her flying into more shipping containers. Ochako burst from the containers. She didn't take as much damage as before, but that still hurt immensely. Ochako gripped her stomach as she looked up towards Asagiri. Asagiri was nowhere to be found. Ochako looked around before looking up. There Asagiri was, flying down to crush Ochako with her foot. Ochako jumped, using one-for-all to propel herself out of the way. Asagiri's kick landed in the cement, a cloud of smoke rising from the impact as Ochako flew away. Ochako quickly touched a shipping container, making it levitate. Copied one-for-all. 100%, Ochako yelled, throwing the container as hard as she could, pink energy coursing around her. Ochako quickly brought her fingers together. Release, she called out. The shipping container smashed into where Asagiri had landed, slamming through other containers from Ochako's forceful throw. Ochako felt her arms burn severely. Ochako collapsed in pain. The bones in her body vibrated. They felt like they could shatter at any moment, and that was with the gauntlets she had on. This copied version was nowhere near as strong as Izuku's. How much pain did he suffer in order to get as strong as he was? Can't handle the pain of one-for-all. A shrieking voice said. Ochako turned to see a foot. Asagiri kicked Ochako away as she flew into an old cargo truck. Your boyfriend would have fought harder than that. With an explosion of pale pink energy, Ochako came flying at Asagiri. Detroit. SMAAAAASH. Ochako screamed as her fist collided with Asagiri's now blocking arms. Pale pink energy flashed as the whirlwinds formed around the two. My, the voice of Asagiri said through the smoke and debris Ochako's punch had brought up. You wanna be like him so badly. And you just can't. Asagiri grabbed Ochako's arm, flinging Ochako above before slamming her into the concrete. Ochako coughed up blood from the impact of the slam before Asagiri stomped powerfully onto Ochako's chest, sending Ochako deeper into the concrete. Give it up, girl. Your one-for-all is too weak. Give it a few decades without my amplification, and maybe then it would be a threat. Now come quietly before I have to drag you to the machine. Asagiri said in a menacing tone. Ochako, with pale pink energy still coursing around her, grabbed Asagiri's ankle, trying to lift the foot off of her. Asagiri sighed. You asked for this, Asagiri said, raising her fist. I can pull one-for-all from your dead body. I don't need you alive for the quirk to still be there. I tried to be nice. I'll send little Izuku up there to greet you in a few hours. Asagiri went to bring her fist down, however before the final blow could reach Ochako a green light flashed. With a powerful force of winds, a punch collided with Asagiri as she flew away. Asagiri flew through shipping containers and past them until she collided with the ocean waves. The water rose from the impact, waves forming around the area of collision. "Hey there," a gentle voice said. Ochako looked weakly towards the bright green familiar eyes of her long-lost boyfriend. "Don't worry, I'm here now, everything is okay." Izuku?" Ochako questioned. Izuku smiled sweetly. "Yay Ocha, I'm here," Izuku said. Tears started to form in Ochako's eyes. "Izuku, Izuku, Izuku." Ochako called out, raising her arms through the rain towards her lover. Izuku gently picked Ochako up out of the rubble she was stuck in as Ochako wrapped her arms tightly around Izuku's neck. "But how? Your memories, they should be," Ochako started to ask, however Izuku put a finger to her lip. "Later Ochako, we don't have much time," Izuku said seriously, still holding Ochako in the air. "Did you take the copied one for all?" Ochako slowly nodded. Izuku clicked his tongue. "That wasn't good. What's wrong Izu? I did it so Asagiri wouldn't get it." Ochako said nervously. Izuku shook his head. "I'll explain later. For now, we need to defeat Asagiri. That won't keep her down for long. I can only use a maximum of 75% of one for all, even after the training I received from the vestiges," Izuku said, staring in the direction of the waves Izuku had kicked Asagiri into. Ochako gave Izuku a horrified look. "Izuku, Asagiri said she could only be defeated by a 100% one for all," Ochako said hysterically. However Izuku continued to stare out into the ocean, lost in thought. "Then that's what we'll give her," Izuku said. "I can't use the other quirks I have just yet, except maybe Black Whip. And unfortunately now isn't the time to test the rest of them. But we can still make up the last 25%. "How?" Ochako asked. Izuku looked down at her with a smile. "With your one for all, can you still fight?" Ochako looked into Izuku's eyes before smiling back. "If I'm next to you, absolutely." Suddenly with a burst, Asagiri launched into the sky from out of the water. Izuku, still holding Ochako, charged his one for all with amazing amounts of green energy circled him. Ochako, following his lead, started coursing the pale pink version of one for all around her. Both the energies entwined, pale pink and green circling the two. "You ready Ochako?" Izuku asked as he watched Asagiri launch after them. Ochako nodded. With a powerful leap, Ochako and Izuku were now flying towards the oncoming Asagiri. Green and pink energy spiraled through the air as they collided with Asagiri, the shockwave shattering any glass nearby. Izuku took the lead, smashing Asagiri down to the ground. Asagiri quickly rose as Izuku landed next to her. "You!" Asagiri screamed, throwing powerful punches at Izuku as he swiftly dodged them. "How do you have your memories back? The vestiges couldn't have possibly brought your lost memories back. I guess you didn't research hard enough." Izuku yelled back, blocking each kick and punch Asagiri threw at him as he threw his own punches. Izuku ducked a punch from Asagiri as he landed a blow to her stomach. Asagiri doubled in pain as Izuku threw her up in the air. Asagiri growled as she flew upwards, ready to fly back down. However suddenly she felt a sharp pain to her back as Ochako, holding a levitating shipping container, smacked her back towards the earth. Before Asagiri could land, Izuku kicked her, sending her flying into an old crane. The crane collapsed under its now bent footing, crushing Asagiri. Ochako landed next to Izuku, the pale pink energy coursing around her. Her body ached as she coughed up more blood. "A little bit longer," Izuku called out to Ochako. "Just hold out a little bit longer." Asagiri burst yet again from the crane, her bloodshot eyes targeting them. "How durable is she?" Ochako yelled through the rain. Izuku however smiled. For the first time ever, Asagiri wasn't thinking straight. "Ochako, get ready," Izuku said, prepping for a final punch. Ochako gave him a look before realizing what he was preparing. Ochako mirrored his stance, preparing for a punch. "One for all," the two called out together as a bloodthirsty Asagiri rushed them. 100%, the two yelled as Asagiri got closer. Detroit SMAAAAAAAASH. In a burst of pale pink and green energy, the shockwave shook the ocean and land as Asagiri took the full force of each one for all. The two one for all users slammed Asagiri into the ground, the vortex of light and winds rising into the air. Air. Asagiri lay on the ground motionless as the two raised their fist in victory. Asagiri had been defeated. They had won. Izuku. Ochako called out, trying her best not to fall unconscious. She stumbled towards the green-haired boy, falling into his arms. Izuku couldn't help but wince as his arms seared. Izuku looked down to see black whip coiled around his arms. Izuku sighed with relief. He instinctively braced his arms so they wouldn't break. That was only luck though. Ochako, are you okay? Izuku called out, suddenly remembering the girlfriend that had collapsed into his arms. The girl had passed out, unresponsive to Izuku's words. Oi, a voice called out in the rain. Izuku turned to see Iida, Shinso and Bakugo walking towards him, Bakugo dragging what seemed to be an unconscious Yosuke behind him. Uraraka, Iida called out, dashing over to Izuku. Is she going to be okay? Iida asked Izuku. Izuku nodded, however his face was worried. For now yay, but in the future, I'm not sure. We have to find a way to get the copied quirk out of her system. Izuku said, you have some explaining to do. Shinso said before Izuku could change the subject. We know what one for all is, you aren't getting away that easy. Izuku furrowed his eyebrows. Later, I promise. For now, we need to get these villains into custody. I'm taking Ochako to Recovery Girl. You guys should head there too once they are locked up. Izuku said. He then turned his attention to Bakugo. Ka-chan, I know, Bakugo said roughly. Just go. Izuku nodded, one for all coursing through his body as he rocketed away towards the UA school building.